Hey everyone, welcome back to Dem DMs. My name is Panda Ghost,
I'm Matt.
And I'm Fox Ghost.
and today we're going to be talking about how to use pre-written modules in your games. So if everyone's ready, let's slide on in. First up, I want to preface this with that we're only going to be talking about pre-written adventures from Wizards of the Coast. There are other third-party adventures out there on DM's Guild and Drive Thru RPG, but today we're just going to be focusing on WotC official campaigns.
Yeah, I think that's what most people are familiar with anyway, so
Yeah.
it's probably a good
Yep.
thing. Yeah.
So yeah, pre-run campaigns have actually had a little bit of a change since 3.5 to 5e. One
Yeah.
thing that 3.5 has that 5e didn't have was encounter maps and tactics describing how the monsters or whatever reacts in that room. So you have a group of goblins in a room. If something happens, if they're alerted too early, there's actually tactics written that that goblin will go retreat and maybe come back with reinforcements or something. Whereas in 5e, you don't get that too much, and you really got to fill in the blanks and kind of think ahead. And it's a lot more of DM discretion of what needs to be done.
Yeah, I think, they did a thing where they kind of focused more on making it almost feels more like a book, which it is, but I mean like it's not written in a way that I was used to, especially when we started in fifth edition. Because like you said, 3.5 had I think a lot more of a like functionality for the DMs and made it a little bit easier on them.
Yeah,
Like you don't have any, aside from like maybe a dungeon map, you don't really have any kind of like encounter maps. And also you don't have any kind of like description of things like loot, like you said, tactics for the monsters in the room, other like unique things that are really going on. So
yeah,
it just feels
it,
a lot less helpful, to be
yeah.
honest.
So unfortunately, I haven't actually read any of the pre-made campaign books for 5e, but I know 3.5, a lot of the stuff was pretty laid out for you. Um, it just it was a lot more beginner friendly because it's what I started with, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, well, as well as it didn't require as much going through the books. A lot of those tactical encounters had the stat blocks in them, so you didn't have to go looking for, random stat block number three in the
Yeah,
monster at the same time.
yeah, makes looking things up a whole heck of a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think that kind of like book nature of how it's kind of formatted and everything like that, it does, like you said, require a lot more of the DM to kind of put the pieces together. I looking specifically towards things like Baldur's Gate Descendant to Avernus, it's they give you kind of like a grid to, or not a grid, a like flow chart to follow, and other than that, it's very loose. And there's like maybe like a paragraph description of some locations, and it really forces the DM to kind of put those pieces together and understand when they want things to happen. And for new DMs, that's not really always the easiest thing to do. So
But it definitely does make the campaign probably feel a little more natural because some campaigns in 3.5 probably could feel robotic, and sometimes if the DM was
mhm.
following the book too closely. Whereas
Yeah,
in 5e, there's a lot more DM discretion, made me make things feel a little bit more natural, but it requires a higher skill level, I would say.
yeah, and I think also, I mean, we look at 3.5 and 3.5. A lot of their modules were like thin, 60 to 80 page like paperback modules, right? And now we
Hmm.
have these 300 page tomes, right? That cost you know 3 or 4 times as much as what they used to in 3.5. So you get a little bit more information, you might get a little bit more of like magic items and new monsters and things like that, but you're driving the cost way up and you're expecting a lot from your DM as a player. You have to kind of respect that your DM's got to put at least $60 in, or or $50 into these games when they're running them. So
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
But looking at those modules, going more towards fifth edition here, how do you as a DM? I mean, none of these games are going to be perfect for every group.
Right.
They're written with a kind of general flow to them, like you said, Foxy, to kind of get them applicable to a lot of people, a lot of different game styles. And so, what do you change? When do you decide that making a change would be a bad idea? Like, when do you stick to the source material? All these questions are usually on a DM's mind when they're going into this. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, I kind of need to sit down, read the module, and think, are my players going to like this? Does this make sense? Are they going to make the decisions that apparently the module assumes they're going to make? Which never happens. But how do you you kind of need to go through and figure that out, and then decide on the changes that you can make that are going to keep the story that you've chosen to run similar, but improve it for your group, right?
Right.
And this is I don't think is just indicative of our group. Like I said, I have a coworker that he DMs a lot, and he says the same things pretty much, that he has to go through and rework a lot of stuff. Not a lot of stuff, but he will have to rework stuff in these pre-written campaigns to make them a little more appealing to his groups.
Yeah, I mean, there was a game that I thought about running before the game that I'm currently running, which I wrote. That was it was Descend into Avernus, and I was like, there's going to have to be a lot of changes that I'm going to have to make, especially in the very beginning of the module. And I was like, do I really want to put in all this work to rewrite essentially 5 levels worth of material because I didn't like it and I didn't think you guys would like it? And that is on the very extreme side of things, and that's exactly when I was like, well, maybe it's just not worth it. But a small change that I should have made after reading the module was a certain staff in the Curse of Strahd module located in the Amber Temple that essentially ruined my game. And unfortunately, I didn't read the fine print of the curse associated with that item that unfortunately befell Panda Ghost's character and turned them into a power-hungry, evil monster, essentially. Over the
Say
course
the
of
line, Panda.
Hi, friends.
Yeah, if for those who are familiar with the Amber Temple, there's a lot of things in there that can really mess with your game. And that staff basically is a free pass to just go, oh, you want to push all those red buttons, go do it. And basically it's like, well, after you've done that, your character's essentially destroyed.
Right.
And it says in the book, as the DM, you're supposed to remove that character and you take them and the player loses their character. I don't like those types of things, and I'm willing to allow you to play a different type of character, evil or something, but that was taking it way too far.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a change I should have made, and look, it is one that I wish that I would have.
I mean, at least it was me that it happened to, someone who is used to DMing and stuff. So, I was able to adapt, went more into a DM's mindset when playing that character. But I didn't get to play my character anymore, right? I had to play a different character, essentially.
Yeah, same character and name only.
Yeah. Not even the same race at one point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, even, Panda, you had instances in the Essentials kit, or, sorry, rather the Dragon of Ice Spire Peak adventure, where there was a lot of monsters that I think you probably, looking back, would have maybe made some changes there.
Yeah, like the jellies, I definitely would have, or oozes, or whatever the hell they were. Whatever they were. That, one hit the wizard. But also there's with some of the, I don't want to go into too much detail in that for anyone that hasn't played it, but like there's some combats that I really had to doctor up because the players just totally didn't do what was expected for that that quest in the adventure. If anyone knows the one with the I think Butterskull Ranch is the name of it. They totally whiffed that, and I had to. But there's like no, there's no tactics really listed out for the enemies in there, so just had to totally like wing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully, I used similar. I used my knowledge from running Scourge of the Howling Horde from 3.5. So that kind of helped, but yeah. I mean, but there's also some, and I will rag on that campaign all I want, or a lot, but the only one that really was, the only quest in there I think that was, or monster that was well written out would be the one that you have to deal with when you're at the gnomes. Because that adventure actually does, or that quest does actually specify your players can make these kind of options, and it will respond in this kind of way if they do this thing, right?
Yeah, I think, the formatting of 5th edition adventures right now, especially for when talking about encounters, is they're like, oh, here's the name of a monster that's in that room, and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, you would like a little bit more, why is this monster there, and what kind of tactics are they going to employ, and like what are some cool options or possibilities that is written for the DM to have their players do as an option, right? And so I think 5th edition could learn a little bit from 3.5, but in general, I think pre-written campaigns help the DM to limit what they have to provide for their players. And I think, especially new DMs could really benefit from running some of the published materials. Yes. But I would say you're not out of the woods. You have to do some work, and it is what it is. But you just kind of need to know what's okay to change and what makes sense for you as the DM and for your players. So.
Yep. Well, I think we've beat a dead horse.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have any thoughts of, from using pre-written games or pre-written stories in your games, put stuff down in the description, down in the comments, and let us know your thoughts. And maybe some pre-written games that are good for new DMs or for experienced DMs. Put that stuff down in the comments, and we'd love to hear from you about any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap this one up, guys.
All right. See you guys later.
See you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for watching the Dem DMs podcast. We release a new video every Thursday. Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments down below. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Also, be sure to smite that like button, subscribe, and sneak attack the notification bell to ensure that you're up to date on all our new content.